What's up guys, welcome to today's video. We're actually starting off in the home garage. I'm gonna do a little bit of work here, nothing really crazy. Basically, I'm stealing the seat out of the red TME because when I track the white Evo with the stock seat and stock seatbelt, I get thrown all over. So I'm gonna pull out this seat, and I'm pretty sure that the safest thing that I can do without a roll cage or a harness bar would be to run this with a stock seatbelt kind of like running through the holes. Basically, there's always arguments you don't wanna run harnesses with a stock seat or anchor to the rear seat points. You don't wanna run a harness bar if you don't have a roll bar, because if you roll, you get suspended. And I just want to be held a little bit better because I get thrown all around that car and it's actually wearing out the seats from me sliding around so much. So I'm gonna see if I can just bolt that in easily and make it somewhat safe, since it already has brackets and I already own the seat, rather than buying something new. Since that car is a street car and it's gonna be a temporary thing. It's killing me seeing this car still with an unpainted cage. I wish I had enough room at the shop so I could just tinker with this on the side and start prepping it to get the whole inside painted so it's nice. But at the new shop, there should be enough room where we can have most of the cars side by side, which is gonna be amazing. Since uninstalling a seat isn't necessarily the most difficult thing, I thought we would do, that's my alarm going off, a little work and talk this morning. God damn it. A lot of you guys keep tagging me in the new 992 GT3 that just came out, and I thought I would talk about it real quick. So, highlights, if you guys aren't familiar with the car, the biggest thing is that Porsche finally went to a double wishbone in the front. I like double wishbone a lot more. It helps you get a lot more traction in the front. It's just a much better design than what they used to have. So that's really cool. But engine-wise, it kind of sounds the same. The biggest differences really are that, like, on the PDK cars, they kind of made the auto shifter like look a little bit more like a manual and feel a little bit more like a manual. I think it's just like an engagement thing. It's got like a new swan neck wing and a bunch more vents and stuff, and it's supposedly a lot better downforce, but the Nürburgring time that it set, which was like 17 seconds faster than before, is kind of confusing because they apparently used a stickier tire and it was a different layout that might be longer. So it's hard to compare apples to apples, but I think what it boils down to though is that at some point in my life, I would love to own a manual GT3, but for now, it doesn't really serve that much of a purpose. And I think the PDK just makes the car different enough for me where it just really kind of stands apart from my other cars and doesn't just feel like the same thing. Not that a manual GT3 would feel different revving to 9,000 RPM and probably being the most perfect manual car ever built, but I enjoy it because Porsche PDK is so good and it's kind of what makes the car special. I also like that the RS is a bit more race car with like the big wing and the big arrow. But with that being said, the 992 GT3 is very similar to the 991.2. It is a little bit bigger and a little bit wider. The weight is apparently the same, but I don't know if it's going to be different enough for me to warrant moving up to the new generation. When the facelift 991 came out, the 991.2, which is what I currently have, it was drastically different to the point where the engine made a bunch more mid-range than it did previously and actually transformed the car. They added like the Naka ducts and a lot of stuff that really set it apart. With this new one, I'm not sold on it just yet. So just to kind of update you guys, because before I told you I was on the fence of whether I should keep my car or if I should trade up. Right now, if the GT3 RS follows the trajectory of the GT3 that they just released, I'm not so sure that I'm gonna necessarily move up. Unless if I get a paint sample allocation, then I'll probably move up because that's what I wanted all along. And if you're not familiar with that, paint to sample is basically when you get to choose whatever color you want. Porsche will pretty much let you paint anything that they approve, even if it's color from a different manufacturer. So like if I wanted to paint it Midnight Purple 3, there's a good chance that that would either be in their catalog of accepted colors or they would accept it because it has motorsport heritage. But it's quite expensive and the slots for paint to sample cars are very limited and kind of allocated to people that buy a lot of Porsches. So the odds of me getting one are slim. I actually had one when I got my Lava Orange car, but they just randomly decide sometimes to stop doing paint to sample cars, and mine was past the cutoff, so I didn't make it. But nonetheless, I have a lot of fun with my Evos, and I'll just get more Evos instead, because they're great. Man, I'm so eager to start working on this car. It's killing me. Fun fact, this car actually came with a seat that was way too small for me, and I convinced Colette to trade me. So this is the car, or the seat I should say, that was in her 3-rotor car. Then she got whatever came in this, I forgot what it was. This is terrifying. Note to self, don't put back in wall in garage. Not enough room. Another thing I'm kind of torn about with this car is I wanted to paint the whole interior, It is already white and I was just gonna paint it white, but I'm almost wondering if I'm gonna be worse off putting fresh paint on it versus leaving the OEM paint that's a little bit scuffed up but will probably be a lot more durable. Since this car's getting carpet anyway, you probably won't even see it for the most part. And that would make it a lot easier if we just have to paint the cage versus painting the entire interior and having to remove everything. One tip, guys, I feel like I've mentioned this in videos plenty of times before, but these were a lifesaver of mine. So I used to always struggle with eating breakfast just because the fact that I would rather not eat than have like frozen bacon, egg, and cheeses that are greasy every morning. And when I found out about these like PBJ platter things, I literally just eat the fruit in the morning and then I have this as like an early lunch. And I used to have problems where I just wouldn't eat because I'd be so busy and have so much stuff going on. And these are like definitely overpriced, but if you're in a rush and you need to like get something half decent, totally recommend it. One thing I'm slightly torn with, if you guys remember a while back when I was doing my R32, I had the same dilemma about running the harness, and I actually ran it one way and then ended up redoing it. So with most Nissans, instead of the way that it's supposed to run, when you run this harness through the hole and it kind of loops down here in the engine bay and would kind of tuck under the headlight and you'd see it come up, you can actually run it underneath and run the wires, so it's kind of like a tucked look. But first I have to make sure that all these wires are going to reach, because the GTR has a lot more sensors and stuff than all the other Nissans I've worked on. But if I can pull it off, it'll look a lot better and there'll be a lot less clutter in the engine bay. Just grabbed this thing back from alignment. Homie Eric took care of it. I didn't realize that we still had one coilover or strut, whatever you want to call it, from the stock Crash Mustang and the one of mine that had the camber plate. So we were way off. We had like 2 degrees on one side, and that's part of the reason why this thing pulled all over the place. So definitely a lot better now. Seems to drive a lot straighter. Freddie dialed in some of the sequential settings and they're a ton better now. We just keep on having issues with the reverse cable popping out. So other than that, it seems to be the best than it ever has been. It's kind of tight for 2 people to work in the front right now, so I'm starting to just pull apart the rear trunk to kind of see what we're going to be facing when it comes to the fuel system that we're going to be running on this car. One fun thing that I never knew on this car, I don't think I've ever owned a Nissan that still has a spare wheel in it. That's pretty cool. That's like free weight savings right there, so pumped about that. But yeah, we're going to pull out this trim and see. I'm pretty sure it's similar to like an R33, which I've already dealt with, but I'm not super familiar with the fuel system or the fuel tank in these. A lot of stuff on my way. Look at that. That does not look fun.
No, it's not fun. The battery.
Look at that brace, dude.
I remember the battery location from when we put the coilovers in it.
Look at all the electronic back here.
I know. What did this go to?
Oh, I jacked that up so when I need to charge the battery, I didn't have to keep ripping out all the interior.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm smart sometimes.
Only sometimes.
I don't want to look it up. I want to just stumble upon it. James.
Yes.
Where's my fuel?
In that thing.
No, in the car.
No, it's in the thing.
No, this one.
Where's the fuel in this?
I can't find it.
Oh, there's supposed to be a thing that holds the fuel? Didn't think that was... Japanese cars don't have that. Japanese cars run on Tesla batteries.
Interestingly enough, it looks like someone's taken this whole thing off before. You see, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
These studs have no nuts on them. On both
When
sides.
that happens.
Yeah.
You're a stud with no nuts.
No, seriously, it's missing all the bolts on the bottom
Yeah.
too. So I wonder if what's a common thing like for service if you need to remove that whole plate.
I mean, it's just like a pillow. The ones at night, you know, they kind of hurt, so you need more
Posted your
support.
quote to Twitter.
Really? Yeah, Daphne saw it.
Oh, she did.
Yeah.
Did you hear it, Mike?
No.
He goes, "In life, all I want to be is a butter knife, dull but effective."
Yeah, you know, like.
Wait, hold on. I want to get John's reaction. John, have you seen the trunk in this thing?
I don't know how deep it is, or
Look at all that junk.
yeah, because that's where the battery is.
Look at that massive brace.
It's crowded.
Yeah.
Oh, you put one of these in, and that's good.
Sometimes really smart. I'm gonna pull
What
that
is that? A
brace.
CD changer?
No. It's called a Tesla.
Tesla?
Yeah.
I think that's it. I don't think I need it on those top ones. Can you imagine we just like start moving stuff and then we see just like a ton of crash damage back here? I'd be so upset.
Yeah.
That thing is heavy.
It sucks because it's like you could save so much weight by not putting that back in, but
I feel like people must pull it out and just put like a brace there instead.
yeah,
I
I,
don't-
mean it
or
has
like,
like
oh,
the
the-
factory strut brace on
The problem
it.
is then the trim wouldn't have anything to like pop into.
Oh, I see.
People in the comments will let us know. Just like people in the comments let us know that we needed to run heater line. They'll let us know about this.
Yeah,
They
true.
know. They
You're right.
understand. They know more than I do about these cars. But really though, they do. I know nothing. These cars used to be affordable enough that the average Joe could own them, and now, thank God I got this car when I did. If they were the prices that they are now, there's no way I would own one.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Michael, this is the heaviest piece of machinery I've ever held to. 17,000 pounds.
You want to weigh it real quick?
Yeah, I do. Zach, I need you to overnight this to Alaska.
Man, I'm just trying to put cream on my shoulder.
Zach has a very hurt shoulder. We understand, Zach. We love you.
They're broken. Hello?
Wake up! Hello?
Hello? 23 pounds. You know, this is something that I noticed. People in the comments will notice this. This piece might be from a junkyard car.
Because of the numbers on it?
Yeah. Whenever you like rip apart something, especially if you see numbers like that on the cluster, usually a sign that it was purchased from a junkyard.
Mm.
I don't know about that because that like doesn't necessarily look like junkyard writing, but definitely a bit strange, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that could half explain, like, the missing hardware, maybe.
Yeah, it's possible maybe someone had it out at some point and like to try to get more money at auction, they put it in so the interior doesn't get graded poorly.
Mm.
Interessante. So, what do we need to access, Michael?
Mm-hmm.
It's down here.
Cool. Yeah? Oh, I see.
Oh, I understand why people say you need to remove the back seat. Because the bolts that hold this frame in
Yeah.
are on the other side of the back seat.
Womp, womp, womp.
So I can get like 90% of the way there, but
Yeah.
I don't like taking the interior apart on the lift because it's hard to open doors. Everything that goes on underneath the intake manifold on an RB is pretty complicated. As you saw in the other video, we're doing our best to simplify it, but it's still pretty complicated because of the fact that we're running an IAC. But one cool decision that we did make is to run the OEM sensors. That way everything on the dash still works. And this SSS Motorsport oil filter block that we have has two places for it, but we need an additional one for our HKS VCAM. So Vibrant makes a really cool fitting that's kind of like a Dash 10 sandwich looking thing that has a fitting that we can use for our oil feed for that, so we don't need to tap an extra fitting anywhere, and then it will be nice and clean and probably end up something like that. Maybe some of you guys are cringing in the fact that we're using a stock harness with this, and if you're just joining us now this late into the build, the logic behind it was that Wiring Specialties was fully game to make us a beautiful new harness, but they needed to basically cut the ABS stuff out of my stock harness, which would have rendered it useless. And my stock harness was in really good shape, apart from some of the loom that had like kind of crusty old electrical tape on it, which I'm redoing now. But the logic is also too, if I ever wanted to do an aftermarket harness, I would rather do it in one shot when we know all the lengths and what we need to modify. So if it ever gets to that point and I do one, I would rather have the stock harness that we've changed a couple sensors, lengthened a few things here and there. So when we order one, it's perfect, rather than trying to guess and get a harness that is 75% as good as it could have been had we waited until we got the engine all installed. So I'm just finishing cleaning up this little sub harness, and there's really not much left. I think just got to really put the valve covers on and we can get this thing in the car.
Yeah,
We're
whenever
about to.
you want to glue the metal, you take the metal and you fit it, and then you get the metal hot, and then the metal.
Yeah, you use
Fuses?
a transformer,
Yeah.
which nowadays are like called inverters. And there's
So
a
you-
flash of light.
You weld inverted
Yeah,
every time.
every time.
So he has to Mike does a lot of work with the editing, so it's actually like upside down when we do it, but then he makes it right side up.
Yeah, yeah.
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 So that's the inverter. It gives you a flash of light, and then you gotta time it right, because if you don't, it won't melt together.
True.
And then it works with Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Oh.
Bluetooth works. Yeah, Bluetooth inverter.
Coming to a SEMA near you.
We are about to put the motor in, and one of the things that I waited to do until the motor was out was the second intake pipe,
Yeah.
because it was hard to get in there with a welder when it was in the car, and I wanted to make sure that I tacked that outside the car, because I know that the spacing between these two pipes when I mocked it up in the car, and that gives me clearance on the strut tower.
Yeah.
The strut tower will be right here. And then and that's with trying to keep this as symmetrical as possible.
You did a very good job. They're very symmetrical.
So yeah.
I mean, I guess we've already kind of seen in here before, but this is like the first look at what it's going to look like with everything in. Ignore harness stuff, but
So beautiful.
Is the tape thing?
nah, we don't need the tape.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm excited. This is like the closest this is the closest it's felt to being real. I like sat in the car again when we were pulling the harness in, and it reminded me of what it was like to drive this car, but it's gonna be way different now.
Are we gonna be back to that one playlist that we listened to way back in the beginning?
Oh my
Being
god.
Stuck in there.
I didn't have all I had was a CD, so I kept listening to the same CD over and over and over and over and
We
over
have to
again.
play that for vibes,
I know.
for the first drive.
No, it was a Pierce the Veil CD, but
Yeah.
that's all I had. I didn't have MP3. I just had it.
Oh.
Yeah. Man, that's funny. I forgot about that. So, all right. Like I said in the live stream, I wanted to wait for this video to go up for this because this is huge.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for understanding. And Johan said there's a potential that we could have this thing running in 2 weeks. I don't know if it's a stretch. Obviously, you guys know that there's a lot of stuff that can come up, missing this, missing that. got to overnight this. Tommy throws this across the room and breaks it. A lot of stuff like that ends up happening, but wiring wise in ECU is going to be pretty simple.
Plug and play. I mean, the few, like that one harness for the D-cam and a couple of other things. The PR pit is pretty much done. Just making sure that once it runs, then we finalize the heat shrink. But yeah, just the V-cam stuff, and maybe add something. The wideband controller is already flex fuel, and then fuel pressure for like just to be safe, not use the factory one. Like have that other option.
Yeah.
Yeah, so probably the longest, most tedious thing is going to be the fuel system. But other than that, like, man, I'm pumped. It's crazy because me and Johan were talking earlier. This is probably like the most complicated a car could possibly get before they made the switch over to CAN. And I think they were already doing CAN cars when this car was being produced. I don't know if it was like which car it was specifically, but there are so many sensors with this car. But the cool thing is we're able to utilize them with the Haltech plug and play. And actually be able to use that data, still have the working MFD multifunction display screen. And it's going to be cool. So I'm excited. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you soon.
When you said
Zach, I need you to overnight this to Alaska.
Man, I'm trying to put cream on my shoulder.
Zach has a very hurt shoulder.